Good morning, Parent Power Hour. Here we are. I'm just going to give a few minutes to everyone to join us, and I've got some jams planned for us while we wait a few minutes. And this is also going to be a time for you to get in here and get your kids situated. If you need to find some space on your own, you can see I'm in another space again today. And we've got a little bit of space and some time and quietness in here for us. So I thought I'd bring us out to the open. And it looks like I'm wearing 80s wear. I'm not. This is just workout wear that I'm going to work out today. So I decided to go ahead and dress like that. So that kind of brings me back to our morning intentions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on some music, give you a minute to get situated, and then also maybe grab a pen or pencil, something to write with, and some paper. And start practicing your gratitude if you haven't already gotten there yet, to maybe spend a moment and do some gratitude practice. And we'll just give it a few minutes and have some others join us. By all means, get settled. Isn't that living? And you do what you can and do your best. Sometimes you cut your losses and you choose to survive. Isn't that right? The same old place, feeling lonesome even for a friendly face. Oh, isn't that living? And then the ground fell out from under my feet. Gotta find my ways, gotta feel the heat. Oh, isn't that love? Gonna catch the next train out of town. Don't come looking for me, babe, I won't be hanging around. Oh, isn't that living? Oh, I'm gonna remember I won't be the cat. I'm loving my ways, what you think of that? Oh, isn't that? Oh, isn't that living? And you do what you can and do your best to do it right. Sometimes you cut your losses and you choose to survive. Oh, isn't that right? Oh, isn't that right? Oh, isn't that right? All right, good timing. Let me figure out how to make sure this music does not continue playing. And that was a song called Isn't That Life by Emmy Phelps. I'm not a radio DJ at all whatsoever. That's not what's going on here if you just tuned in. If you see in the comments over there, I was giving people a minute or two to get settled, to get your kids, get on their projects if they're not already, find a space for you that is yours, that you can, if you're either watching it recorded, that you've gotten settled in your own space, or if you're live with us here, it's 10:06 a.m. in Dallas area. I'm actually specifically in, I always struggle, it's Allen, but on the other side of the street, it's also Plano. And then the other side of the street, it's McKinney. And then anyway, so we're North Dallas suburbs up here. And so if you're just tuning in, this is Parent Power Hour. You're not just watching some girl sit in a kitchen and write things. What I was doing this morning is trying something a little different, and especially based off of what some of my colleagues have recommended and that they've seen some progress for or some results in, is that kind of give people a minute or two to get settled. And whenever they're joining us, and especially for you parents that are in the house with your kiddos, it's Friday, and they're probably what I've been hearing from a lot of my friends that have elementary, middle school age students mostly, is that, the kids are already done with all the work for the week. They already got done with their assignments and their work on Tuesday. So probably your kiddos are doing something else that's not sitting at the kitchen table working on school. But in any case, you're here, and that's what this is about. So you've had a few minutes, and then also I had some tunes playing, so we could all take some intentional time to write down some things that we're grateful for. One of the first things that I encouraged you to do when we were chatting on Monday, which was episode 1, premiere day of newminds.tv, which is what this is. We were talking about how we set the day, how we set our intentions, how we start the day is so important, and that includes practicing the things that you're grateful for. And so, I just kind of thought, well, instead of me just playing random music and waiting for you to get here, why don't we all have this first few minutes of our parent hour to be intentional reflection, and we'll write down the things we're grateful for, myself included. I'd love to hear what sort of things that you wrote down. And remember, as I said, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be something really deep and philosophical. It can be whatever brings you joy. When you reflect back on the previous 24 hours, what sort of things do you think of that you're like, that was really, I enjoyed that, or that made me feel joy? I'm not trying to go all Marie Kondo on you over here, not an ad. But, what sort of things do you think about that you're like, oh, that was a moment where I was like, that was incredible. One for me that I wrote down was yesterday I was driving around my nephew. He's almost 2 years old. He'll be 2 in April. And he usually is in preschool and takes a nap around 12:30 at preschool. It's Montessori. I personally like to define the difference between Montessori, but that's a whole different, that's a different podcast. As Ben likes to tease me sometimes when I get going on things. He's like, okay, thanks for the podcast. But we have to get him out of the house and get him in the car. There's also a 4-year-old. Hey, Jonathan. Oh, I see Ben and Janet are in here too. Good morning. There's some others. I don't know who you are. There's more than 11 Jonathans, I think, on here, but we're glad you're here, and you probably saw in the comments what we're starting off with this morning. So I'm just telling you a little bit of something that I'm grateful for, and so it helps to get him out of the house and for his nap. He's almost 2, and there's also a 4-year-old in the house, and then my brother-in-law's, in his office working, and I'm here working, so it's a very different environment for us, and especially for the little ones, right? When they're used to their routine. And I used to, being at Montessori school, being, going to kinder music, doing all the things that are their routines. And so it's so important for him to still have his nap. We call it Grumpy Toad. It's from a James Dean Pete the Cat book, Grumpy Toad, which I don't know, this also not an ad. I'm just like spewing ideas at you guys this morning. I'm just so excited to be here. James Dean is also doing live streams of his artwork. He's the Pete the Cat author and artist. And so our little guys are huge Pete the Cat fans. And there's one of them, a character has a grumpy toad. So we kind of lightly refer to grumpy toads around here when somebody needs to have a nap or needs to eat, that sort of thing. So in order to avoid the little one becoming grumpy toad, it's really important that he has his nap. And so that's one place where I can step in and help as Aunt, well, they call me Aunt Kiki, actually just Kiki. Kiki's a little easier to say than Kristen. And I was the original Kiki, by the way. Is it Drake? Which guy sings it? Come on, Janet. Janet's like knows all about music. It's strange because I'm the music teacher and the musician, but pop music, I don't. Anyway, so I forgot. I lost train of track again. So here we are. We're going on a drive to have his nap, and so that's one place where I can step in. Thank you, brain, and help out. And so my sister's with the 4-year-old. My brother-in-law's working in the office, and I'm not tied completely to my laptop. I mean, there's important times where I'm here. And so, 12:30, it's a pretty good time. So I was like, okay, well, how about I drive him out today? And we just go on a drive in the car and usually stop by Starbucks. And he falls asleep. And then he sleeps for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So that's great. So we were out yesterday and he wasn't quite asleep yet. So I wasn't going to stop at Starbucks. I usually stop after he's also not an ad. It's the thing this morning. I don't know. I can't stop it. So we usually get to Starbucks after he's asleep because the continuous motion is good for him. So I just kind of turned off and drove into Twin Creeks neighborhood, which is around here. It's really large, really, really, really large subdivision of where we live, and lots of beautiful trees and homes. And as soon as we turned in, I was like, oh look, there's somebody walking their dog. I mean, it's 12:30 on a Thursday. I'll look on the other side of the street. Oh, there's like a guy walking by himself. Okay, keep going down the street. There's two, like a mom and like a middle school age daughter, and there's just like a dad and a mom and a stroller. And then I'm like, I had to like send a Marco Polo to my friend and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many people out on the streets. And so I kept just driving through this neighborhood, and I was in there for maybe about 10 minutes, and I counted 26 people. I counted up to 26 people. And hi, Walter. Good morning. So glad you're here. Just talking about things that we're grateful for. Starting our morning, our Parent Power Hour with gratitude practice. And yeah, I was just like, I almost got like emotional about it because I'm so grateful to see other people out on the streets. Nobody had a phone in their hands. They were walking. There were family groups. There were friends. You could tell, probably, I don't even know. I would assume family groups because it's a neighborhood and, we're encouraged social distancing and all that. However, I was just like, this is beautiful. They're not just out there for exercise. There were a few people out there for, running and fitness and health, but others were out there just getting out of the house, right? And that just brought me so much joy to be driving around and to see that. And so that's one of the things that's on my list of things that I'm grateful for. So I'd like to hear from you all as well. I'm going to take another sip of my coffee and take a pause in my blah, blah, blah. And show up in the comments. I'd like to see what are some of the things that in the last 24 hours that you wrote down in your reflection. I just used a Post-it this morning. But what are some things that you wrote down that you are grateful for, that when you look back on the 24 hours, that brings you gratitude? I'd like to hear from you in the comments. Let's see what you got. Oh, Justin's on. Good morning, Justin. If you're just joining us, we are starting our Friday morning with gratitude reflection, thinking back on the past 24 hours, and I'm waiting for some people to pop in the comments over here, excuse me, about something that if you think about in the last 24 hours that brought you joy, that you're grateful for, that can be simple, it can be deep. Okay, yeah, good one. Being able to connect with friends virtually, right? I had the same experience with myself. Yes, not with myself. That wouldn't be with friends, but I had the same experience myself yesterday. I have a group of girlfriends that are, was that yesterday? Oh, I tell you what, all the days are running together, aren't they? It was the day before, and last night was actually, I think it was 15. I was in a group of 15 that we were calling it wine night, and everybody had their glass of wine. It's a workout group that I'm a part of, and all the kids were put to bed. Hey, Jonathan, great. Thank you for the likes and the thumbs up. I'd love to hear what you're grateful for. Ooh, Doug's got one. Hot off this morning's broadcast, he's grateful for the lightning fast throwback to Frisco camps of the past with Mr. Justin's Wonder guitar picks. I was among the original audience for the debut of that Songfest that has since become recognized as tradition. Good times. Hey, Doug, Mr. T, and grateful that you're also here in the house. Yes, if you missed the morning announcements with Justin, he did do a little throwback of his original song, so no copyright issues here. And this is an ad to go check out his morning announcements and hear the song. Let's see, we have another one. So grateful about having the kids at home from college and being able to have the time to share, play games, and reconnect. Oh, wow, right? I mean, I think back, if I would have been in college and I was forced to go home, I actually would have loved it. And my mom would have been like she used to do when I would come home from college. You know, I'm 18, 19, 20, and she'd still ask me to like sit on her lap so she could hug me and rock me. Let's see. Justin says, I built a puzzle for like the first time in 15 years. Thanks to Mr. T for the inspiration. Wow, you built a puzzle. You built a puzzle. You didn't, well, did I build? No, we were getting there. We were getting there the other day with following Catalina's Steam en Espanol art project that we were working on. We didn't get to full build one, but wow, I'd love to see a picture of that, Justin. So later on, take a pic, post it in the comments. Let's see, we have another one that says, enjoying outside and watching the mockingbirds. Oh, you have mockingbirds, that's amazing. Watching our indoor from our car, get so excited about, get so excited about the birds. Opened the window so she could hear them. I went outside to watch the birds, ended up doing 2 hours of yard work. It relaxes me. Amen to that. Oh, Justin, he says he didn't write the song. See, I thought it was an original. I remember you had an original somewhere. That is awesome that you get to go and listen to mockingbirds and hear them. I was talking about the same thing, that like the sound outside, and Julie, I think it is, let me know if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but it sounds like you're having a similar experience to me, that outside the sound is so different. I've mentioned it before, but I'm a musician, and so, you know, sounds and sight, that's part of the reason why I also plug in here, so I hear myself. Instead of thinking about, you know, the dog panting over there in the corner that's just asking for attention. Doesn't realize that I'm talking to all of you. I'm not talking to him. But yeah, the sound outside is so different, isn't it? Like you can hear the birds. Our house backs up to other houses, and so like all the backyards are together, and like you can actually hear kids' voices playing outside, which isn't something that we've usually done. Hi, Casey. Welcome in. Good morning. Hey, Adam. He's here too. If you're just joining us, we are in the Parent Power Hour, and we've just started off with some gratitude practice. We had the first 5 minutes where I had some music playing to give you time to get settled, and do some reflection of yourself on the past 24 hours for yourself about what are some things that bring you gratitude, that you are grateful for, that bring you some light and joy and some happiness and joyful thoughts about the past 24 hours. I'd love to hear from Casey and Adam if you guys have things as well. Casey, I actually just referenced our wine night last night as one of the things that I was grateful for. Casey is the leader of a workout group called Momletta. They just had a rename, so I had to be careful there. I'm not a mom, but as you guys have heard, I spent a lot of time and live with my sister, and she has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and so we go and work out together. Especially when I was living abroad, I would come home every summer and work out together with this group of amazing, powerful women that are all moms. That's why it's called Momletta. And they take their strollers and kiddos and to the mall and work out, and it can kick some booty. So that's another reason why I'm dressed this way today, because Casey's team has been posting live videos and they're recorded, of course, also of workouts. And so I've heard from everybody else, even last night on the big group wine night that we were having together, how like hard these workouts are. I mean, some people are like, oh, you got your baby with you. No, you are sweating. I mean, it's boot camp. It's boot camp. Like 75 burpees that I can't stand burpees. Can't do it. I mean, I do it, but I don't like it. But I also don't like other parts of my body more. So having to do with the way that I feel in my body, not the way that it looks. Just all the haters, just know that this is me, my body. I don't like the way it feels on my body, so I feel sluggish. And I know some of you feel the same way, that after you've been in the house for the past week, and probably attached to your computer a lot more than you usually have been, that your body just feels like your back hurts and you're like, oh, I need to stretch. That's what I mean, that the way that my body feels if I'm not working out actually feels a lot worse than after 75 burpees. That's my brain. Your brain is probably different. Yeah, Casey says she's definitely grateful for the wine night as well. Thank you so much for organizing that. I think, Casey, what were there, like 15, 16 moms on that group? It was fun. It was also a lot of fun to see, like, how does it work? And this is also a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. How does it work on these group chats that we're all having, these group video virtual chats? And it's really interesting to see how many times people are all talking at the same time, and depending on the app that you're using, like how the app or the service provider that you're using for that, how it can identify people who are chatting differently. So like on FaceTime, all the bubbles are floating around of all the people who are in the group chat, and then the person who's talking, like that bubble comes closer to the screen. But of course, if you're all talking at the same time, it's just like, which was the case with me and my like 4 girlfriends from all over the world the other night. Oh, Miss Jeannie's here. Hi, Mom. She's got another shout out again today. Like she's amazing. So it just happens to come up in conversation. Casey also says she's grateful for our in-home workouts, and yes, they are keeping us sane. Thanks for the kind words. Of course, Casey, like so generous and like those of us here also at New Minds to know that, we do what we do all the time, and now it just looks different. I think Justin reminded people of that again this morning in his announcements that, what we do as New Minds Enrichment is we teach kids. We provide real learning experiences, real inspired learning experiences for students. And so when we don't have students, how do we still provide those experiences, not just for students, but also for parents? Because we do a lot of personal development, staff development, those sorts of things anyway. So I think, those of us who are on here, Casey, Miss Jeannie with Kinder Music, those of us who are on here that are used to doing this with kids, with adults, interacting, all it's done is just be like, well, I'm still going to do what I always do. It's going to look different. So oh, wow. Yeah. Casey says at one point we actually had 19 people on our group chat. That's incredible. Love it. Yeah. Okay. She's doing her workout on her computer right now and she's watching. Multitasking at the finest. Yes, girl. That is, that's a lot. I mean, I'm like trying to drink coffee and do that, and it's a lot for me. Okay, so what we were starting our morning with is here in Parent Power Hour is our gratitude practice. That's why there were some jams playing when you got in. Yes, thanks, Mom. She says she's so glad she could join in this time. Encouraging, full of hope, such a bright spot in the day. This resource is worth gold. Mom, we're also writing down what we're grateful for. And so if you kind of scroll up in the comments, I think that's also so awesome to hear. Julie mentioned that, she was watching the mockingbirds and listening to them. And that also inspired her to go out and do 2 hours of yard work, which is so therapeutic for her. And yeah, I actually said to my sister yesterday, I was like, we should compost. It's something that I've always thought we should do. We're vegetarians, so we have a lot of things that we could compost. And Mom also wants us to start planting some vegetables, and start some vegetable gardens in the back. And so I think Texas soil is really different, right? I don't know. Like I said yesterday when I introduced you to my pet, which was my plant. I have I have a gray thumb. I don't have a black thumb, but I have a gray thumb. So it's definitely not green. All right, so let's get into it. We've started our week, and I'm going to do a little recap of our week first, and then get to kind of what we're doing here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Parent Power Hour is meant to be, just as my mom said, a moment of encouragement for you, that there's full of hope, that this is a moment that brings you some sunshine to your life. I still have mine out. We're getting closer. This is mine, and this is one of the other ones in our house. And this is another one. So we have some sunshines that we're going to be taping to our front door, our front window. I love this interpretation. I mean, this is some brightness in your day, right? Like, if this doesn't bring you brightness about, you know what, I'm going to color the sun, and I'm going to color it however I want. And you know what? It's even going to have some rays coming out of it. I love that. Love that so much. Oh, nice. Adam's chimed in. He says he's thankful for the cuddles and the time that he gets with his little one. He's thankful for all of the time to get back from all those hours on the road commuting. Yes. Right? I mean, all those minutes for me was at least, 40 minutes a day to and from work, which isn't that much now. Excuse me. I know that it used to be, excuse me. This is a result of me talking in the morning. Usually I do vocal warm-ups. But anyway, yes, it used to be for me like almost an hour to longer. And I'm sure some of you used to have super long commutes as well. And Adam is one of our inspirators for New Minds Enrichment. So he does a lot of commuting around the Metroplex to bring real inspired learning to kids all over in all kinds of schools. Where are you at, Adam? You're at Green Hill, you're at Parish, you're at St. Christopher's. So, I mean, we're talking like all over the Metroplex. So yes, Adam, especially at this time, right? I think your little one, he's a little bit over 2. And what a great impact that's going to have on our little ones to be around their parents more often. Dads that work, moms that work, that are now in the home. So that's been a big adjustment. So that's kind of part of what we talked about on Monday. On Monday, we talked about how identifying your purpose, identifying your why, starting out with ways that you can identify your reality. And so part of that is acknowledging and saying to yourself, this is what it is, and leaving it out. Without the qualifiers, this is what it is, and tomorrow it's going to be better. No, you don't even have to get there. Like, we are here in this moment. It's hard. And that's, Justin started us off with talking to kids that way. And a way that I offer to extend that is to say, even to yourself, you know what, this is hard. This is unexpected. This is something that I'm not used to. This is different. And also offering that to your kiddos. I know we've got, I think Julie, I remember she was in here earlier, and she has a kindergartner and a 5th grader. And those are some big differences developmentally there. But also for both of those age ranges, still saying, this is different. Yeah. And they're like, why do I have to do this work at home? I'm sure they're not aggressive. But if they are, or if they're not, like, even having that response as the parent and saying, yeah, this is unexpected. None of us knew this was going to happen. You're right. This is a challenge. So acknowledging that first, and a lot of times bringing that out verbally. Also for us as adults and parents, verbally bringing out how we're feeling. Name it to tame it is the phrase that was coined by Siegel is his last name. He wrote The Whole Brain Child. Dan Siegel? Doug? Dan? I'm going to let that one go. We've got somebody in here from Brazil. Very nice. Great. We're talking about what we're grateful for. We'd love to hear that. Looking for extra minutes. Haven't found any yet, but adding time to projects. But cleaning out and reorganizing the closet is going to be something that's going to bring some happiness. She says, I'm grateful to have good health and to be able to work from home with teleconferencing kinder music classes for several hundred precious kiddos. Yes. I mean, the response of the parents knowing that they can keep some parts of their routine, including kinder music classes, which is early childhood music and movement, keeping that part of the routine for their kiddos, ages birth to 7 years old, is so valuable. And so even in those moments when we're doing things to fill in the gaps of where, even here at New Minds, yes, this what we're offering to you all throughout the day on the hour. Yes, this is different. It's different and it's a challenge. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad. I think a lot of times we gravitate towards, well, I need to define whether it's good or bad before I actually know what to do with it. Sometimes, but most of the time when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're forcing something else to it that it's not required to actually move forward. A lot of times when you acknowledge things, you're able to move from them. For example, something that I want to acknowledge about myself that I just caught myself doing, and I did it again, is working to remove the word just from my vocabulary. It kind of has this effect on the listener that, well, I'm just trying to da-da-da-da-da, or, well, it's just what I'm just trying to say is, it has a different feel to it. It's a little bit more of like, I'm not really sure if I should say what I'm saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'm just going to say, but what I'm just doing, or it kind of adds this layer of like feeling like you have to explain yourself and justify what you're doing. Maybe that's where the just comes from, trying to justify what your thoughts are. You don't have to justify what your thoughts are to anyone because they are your thoughts. Now, you might need to choose a different approach. You might need to choose your words in a different way so that your thoughts are more transparent, or more showing in a way that is true to who you are and your intention in that conversation. But when I say things like, well, what I'm just trying to do is I'm just trying to help, that ends up discounting a lot of times the way that person receives the help I'm trying to give. So instead, what I'm working on, and I've done it like 5 times already in this conversation, and you're not even like talking back to me officially, but what I'm trying to do is to instead say, well, I'm just trying to help, is say, I'm trying to help because blah, 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 right? And that comes back to something that we'll get back to later. Right now, we're kind of reviewing the week. So we started out with naming it to tame it. And that means identifying your reality, saying, this is the reality, accepting it. Not necessarily like, well, I accept, this is it. This is the reality. We just got to be here with it. That's it. I surrender to it. I have no control. No, it's more like, okay, this is the reality. And then the next step is to go to your why, to determine what your action item is, or the way that you think about it is next. This is not an 80s outfit. I keep trying to readjust. This is my workout outfit. It's going to happen today. I'm going to work out. So I'm going to move on from that. So what we do is when we come back to identifying the reality, is then the next step is we make sure that whatever our next action is identifies with our why. So we spent the second day of Parent Power Hour reflecting, meditating, making time for ourselves to really align with what is our why, what is our purpose. And you might find that you have a purpose for your professional, your career, and you might have the other purpose, which is not the professional, which is going to be personal, right? Hopefully those two things actually do align in an ideal world. And I think for especially some of the people who've commented up here that are small business owners, they are, right? They have that control. Like, you started that business. You're an entrepreneur. You started that business. Justin and Ben started this business. They started this company because their personal why was to bring that into their profession, into what they're offering to the world, and the thing that they're going to be identifying as you know, corporate people would say is your career, right? So in an ideal world, your profession and your personal life would also align with your why. And also that comes down to how you're handling the conflicts, the challenges, the things that are happening here in your home. Oh, hey, Shay's here. Good morning, Shay. Now we have both Shay and and Jonathan on. I almost said Justin. So Where's the baby? No, I'm sure he's right here with us. So when you identify your why, when you're able to get clear, and that's number one, the most important thing actually here is not that you know what your why is, but that you have clarity on it. Because a lot of us do know, and it's here in us, and we're like in the back of our mind. But when it's so clear to you, when you've written it down, when it's part of your gratitude practice, when it's part of every decision you make, then that next step after identifying your reality is more clear to you. It's more aligned with who you are as an individual. It's more aligned with your intentions in the conversations that you have. And that's another reason why, for me personally, knowing that if I remove this just phrase, this word just from my vocabulary, that I am more confidently showing up for the people that I want to serve. It removes a little bit of the self-doubt that when I come to you and I say, well, I'm just trying to help, like that's a little bit more of like I don't believe in myself and I don't believe in my purpose, but I do now. Like I've had this, I've intentionally set up a lot of time, and I've had the benefit to do that, which is part of the reason why I'm sharing with you here, is I've had the gift of being able to sit back and take a step back from, what was my career for 15 years and say, wait a minute, is that actually in line with my why? And it's like, I knew somewhere that I wasn't going to continue always and be a teacher in the classroom in schools, but I didn't know like what was next. And so in order to find what was next, I had to identify my why more clearly. And that trickles down into being able to identify the outcome and the goals that I do have. So the next step of what we did this past week, we identified our why, we named our current reality, and we spent some time digging deep into our why. And then the next step of what we did was we also took some time to identify obstacles, right? If you're following along, it's that WOOP. It's actually WOOP. It's an acronym that means wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. And that is from Deborah Ottengien. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. If someone else wants to pop up the pronunciation for me on the comments, I won't hate it. That'll be helpful. It just, on like the third day of Parent Power Hour, I was preparing for what we were going to talk about, and I came across this, and this is actually something that the social scientist has developed over years and years of research. And I was like, wait a minute, that's exactly what we're doing this week in Parent Power Hour. We're whooping, right? So identifying those obstacles, and a lot of times, you have the clarity on your why, and now you're ready to get out there and do it. And what's the next step that is important is to identify the possible obstacles. What are the possible things that you can get in your way that can block you from achieving your goals, that can block you from that can make things less clear on your why, that can block you from being the best version of yourself. That includes as a parent, that includes as a colleague, as a son, a daughter, any of your relationships that you have. Because when it comes down to it, whether you're in the house with your family or whether you're on a conference call, on a video conference call or group call with a group of people, that's still all about relationships. I can't think of a single thing in human experience in our lives that doesn't, when you really drill down to the core of it, come to the essence of a relationship. Like at its core, what is it? It's gonna move forward and be what it is because of a relationship. So that means identifying the way that you're talking to yourself about what's happening between you and this person, whether it's professional or personal interaction that you're having, right? And so that brings us to now the plan, which is the last step of WOOP. And I'm glad that I bumped into that, because I was like, okay, what are we going to talk about today? It's day 4, or actually day 5. See, time vortex. Nobody knows what day it is. This morning I was thinking, So what month is today? I feel like each day is like a whole month right now. Somebody was like, yeah, let's do something on Wednesday. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that tomorrow. And I'm like, no, tomorrow is Saturday. I don't even know what today is. It's like spring break time, but a vortex that people are working in anyway. So today is about our plan. I'm going to take a deep breath and we're going to get set. So part of our plans is our goals, which we have reviewed, and something I'd like to give you a tip that I learned along the way is about writing your plans and your goals down daily. So after we do our daily gratitude practice, you don't have to go all out. You don't have to go hardcore. I mean, if you're a hardcore person, you might go more hardcore, but start with writing 5 things that you're grateful for every day, and then write down 5 goals. And then productivity recommendations are just 3 when you're talking about your work, when you're getting things done. GTD, Getting Things Done, it's a book. None of you have time to read it, but I'll bring in some tips for that. And they have been seamed in here and there. I did a whole 3-day workshop on it. It's incredible. But the recommendation there, based off of research, is that when you're talking about getting things done for yourself and productivity in your work, you identify 3 things. Because you don't really get more. You don't get more than 3 things done a day. You have little tiny things that are contributing to one bigger thing, right? So even if you're saying that one of your productivity goals is clean out your email inbox, people, you even have to break that down, right? Because there's no way that if you have 1,927 inbox little red circles on your phone that says that that's how many emails you have in your inbox, you're not going to get that cleaned out in one day, because you're going to do 20 minutes of it here, and then you have to actually get to something else that's more important for you, right? So breaking your tasks down into achievable markers of tasks as well. And the same thing for our personal goals. When we're identifying with who we are and we have that clarity now, and now what are your goals for the day? Choose 2 to 3 things every day that you're going to do intentionally to get closer to the person that you know that you want to be, to achieving your hopes and dreams about who you are. And the power of writing them down is remarkable. And the next step when you do write them down is to write them as though they've already happened. That is a huge difference, and I've seen it in myself. When I write down, I am an encouragement to the people in my community by doing live videos. Like, be specific about your goals. When you're writing down your goals as if they already happened. So I write that down. I mean, it was actually a little less specific. I was writing down, I'm like censoring myself right now, and I shouldn't be. I'm modeling for you all how to be transparent. So since November, I've been writing down every day in my morning journal, my practice. I am a relied upon consultant for people in their personal development. I've been writing that down every day since November. I am an exceptional, here's one. I am an incredible listener. I write that down every day, so that it's that self-identifying thing. And that's not necessarily one of the ones that I'm just going to check. I'm a good listener, done with that, move on to the next one. No, it's more of also writing down the things that are core to who you are and who you want to be. And so, I want to be a really good listener, and that's something that's what I want to be, because I know that when I listen to people that I can hear them, and I can hear them talk. I can hear the depth of what they're saying. I hear what they're revealing about themselves to me, instead of me listening to them and trying to figure out how to fix, which is a big thing for me. As Enneagram 2, I'm the helper. I want to fix things. I want to be able to take away everybody's problems in the world and just do it for you all and heal the world. But what the shadow side of that is that I don't actually listen to you tell me what you're telling me that you really need, because I start anticipating what I think you need. And that's also another whole podcast. But what's happening there is when I start and when I have been writing down, I am an exceptional listener. That causes me to be in the moment when I'm listening to a friend vent or tell me about their day, instead of me thinking, well, she probably should have woken up earlier to do her gratitude practice. That's probably why she's so grumpy right now, because she's telling me how overwhelmed she is. And I could go to problem solving mode real quick, and I have to censor myself in a lot of situations to not solve all the problems of the world. But I can do that. And if I am, instead, while she's talking, I can say, I'm an exceptional listener. The silence that happens in my head is a lot more open and receptive to what I'm able to offer for that person. Yeah, and just got a comment that writing down goals as if they have already happened is profound. It really is. And I learned that from Rachel Hollis, and I think she learned it from someone else. So just passing on the love here. This is not my own creative thought. I'll get there. But what that does is on those bigger things, like what I just said, or here's another example. For starting in November, I started writing down, I work for someone that I respect deeply. And it's been so many years, you guys. I've got some people over here that are watching that have been a part of my journey, but I worked for some people that have been way less than respectable. And nobody that's part of my life, so we're all good right now. And if they are, they already know, because I've actually had conversations with them about this, but which is also part of my journey. So being able to cross that off when I started working for New Minds full-time, after about a week of working at New Minds full-time, I crossed off my list. I work for someone I respect deeply. Because the respect that we equally share for each other in the leadership team, as well as the whole team at New Minds, Inspirators on here with Adam and Walter, Janet's on here, part of the leadership team, Shay's on here. She's also part of the core team of things that happen at New Minds. And not only do I work amongst people that I respect, but I also technically work for my bosses are Ben and Justin, and I respect them deeply. And that's not something I've been able to say for several years. So even writing that down and then crossing it off. And when I crossed it off, I replaced it up with something else that was a professional goal that I had because of that deep dive that we did back on our why. When you wrote down and you went through that meditation process and you had a whole page, 2 pages, 3 pages of all of the visions that you have for yourself in 10 years from now, those are some of the things that you write down as your daily goals. When you wrote down and envisioned yourself, owning a big, beautiful home with 8 rooms and 2 butlers and a driver, then you write that down every day. I have a 8-bedroom home. I have 2 butlers and I have a driver. And you write that down every day until it happens. And then when it happens, you move into that home and you hire those drivers and you hire that butler. I'm just making stuff up. Then you cross it off and you replace it with the next thing. So I think I've kind of gone a little bit longer than expected on that one, but I thought that it was important to kind of get to the point that writing down your goals every day, that's part of your plan, right? That's the P, that's the whoop. You wished, you identified some outcomes and you had some obstacles that you identified, and the next thing is to plan. The last thing I want to offer for you before we get off is that when you're planning and when you're talking about setting your goals and they're there at the forefront of your mind, in your conversations with people, in your relationships with people, in the way that you're having interactions with your family, right? For a lot of us, and that's what actually this is more targeted about, right? Is how you're spending your time and the energy and the interactions that you have with those in your home because of social distancing. So let this be the core of you as well, that even when you're finished with your gratitude practice, that you come down and you say, I am an exceptional listener. That applies to the 4 people, 2 people, 3 people that are in your house with you. One person, if it's just you and just mom and dad in the house, then they're still interacting with each other. They're still human, right? And so what's driving you in those interactions as well? And even on our group chats, what kind of presence are we bringing to our group chats on FaceTime, on WebEx, on Zoom, all the things. And so part of what I've been finding really interesting on all these group chats, and Casey was in here earlier talking last night, we were on a wine night together, and there were 19 women on that wine night. And like everybody talking over each other, which was, I loved it. I love the energy. I know it's not for everybody. There's some people on the chat that didn't speak one single time. But something that I took away from that was, I've been asking, or I've been saying that I wanted to practice being an exceptional listener. Here it is. Because you can't talk nonstop like I am right now to you. But if we were in a group together, I wouldn't be able to just blah, 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 my thoughts at you, right? I would almost by nature of the experience be forced to be a listener. And so let that also be something that when you are in those group chats or you're on that work call, that you're practicing those listening skills for listening's sake, not necessarily for fixing. And here's a tip, a strategy that you can use to approach that is when they're talking, you're taking down the facts in your brain, and then they stop. They stop talking. You're tossing back ideas. You're problem solving back and forth. You're in the kitchen trying to decide what to do for dinner. You're all the scenarios. It applies to all of the scenarios, whether it's virtually or in person, that you're saying, give yourself 3 seconds. They finish talking. Okay, well, and then after dinner, we need to be sure that we clean up the kitchen. Okay, so what you're saying is we should clean up the kitchen? That 3 seconds doesn't actually last that long. In your head, it's 1, 2, 3. If you can't wait that long, say hippopotamus in your head. Okay, and then start with repeating the last thing that the person said. That brings clarity to the conversation, and this really, really applies in any conversations that have something to do with conflict, any misunderstandings, disagreements about child raising, disagreements about appropriateness of going outside of the house or not. But the step of pausing for a moment, hippopotamus. So what you're saying is it's important to you that we don't go outside. Then the person comes back to you, yeah, it's important to me that we don't go outside. So either that's option one, that they're like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's important to me. And it might feel a little bit awkward because you're repeating, but start with the phrase, so what you're saying to me is, because what that does is that already bridges that gap of we are in this conversation together, and I'm not going to try to bounce back right away with, well, you know what? I don't care. I think it's important that we stay inside or whatever. I forgot the option I was going with there. So let's say one part of the argument is that we don't ever step outside of the house. The other side of the conversation is, we should be able to walk around the neighborhood. Okay. So those are the two sides of the argument. And one person says, well, I think, it's important, we're not going to leave the house for the next 15 days. It's not safe. We're not going to leave the house. We're not stepping outside of the store for anything. So most of us in our nature is to be like, well, that's not right. I'm not okay with that. Like, I want to be able to walk outside and I'm going to take the kids for a walk whether you care about it or not. Whoa, what you just said is you just created a larger divide between the two sides of the conversation. And then you're also hot and fired, right? This can kind of also come back to what we talked about, naming it detainment, right? Another option is to say, okay, what you're saying to me is really frustrating. I'm feeling frustrated. My chest, my face, everything's turning red right now. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to come back to this conversation when I'm not going to be reacting from a place of reaction, of fight or flight. And so the first step to do to that is to take that 3 seconds, hippopotamus. So what you're saying to me is it's important for us to stay inside the house. So the person's either going to respond with, that's this person over here. The person's either going to respond with, yes, it's important to me that we stay inside the house. Then you've already bridged a connection. The other option is the person might say, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. So you've also bridged that connection to seek greater clarity in the conversation. and also prove to them that you are listening. And if you find that this is your go-to for the first few times that you experience conversations like this, stick with it, okay? And then when you're ready to launch to the next step, then you would do something like, so maybe, you know, for the first few conversations you have, sorry, I have an itch right here. My hands are clean, it's fine. When we get to this part in our conversation, you know, this might be your go-to for the first few times, and you're like, okay, I remember Kristen told me something, she gave me a tool, I don't remember, okay, she said hippopotamus, and then repeat what that person said. Stick with that until you feel that until you're ready to launch. And when you're ready to launch, you know you are, because then you're able to say, okay, well, what I want is I want for us to be able to have a unified agreement about this. What I don't want is that we end up with two different ideas and we leave this conversation not having any resolution. So what you're doing there in that second step is you're identifying what you want and what you don't want. So, and I just threw that out there to you. That's not really something that is necessarily the scenario. I'm just, oh yeah, what I hear you saying is name it to tame it. Yes, Janet, thank you. Helps you get out of your reptilian brain. Yes, back into your thinking brain. Right, exactly. So the next step of that is what I want and what I don't want. What I told, my example was a little bit more touchy-feely, but yours might be logistical. Yours might be, okay, well, what I want is that I want for the kids to get fresh air. What I don't want is for the kids to be strapped in the house all day long. And then the other side of the conversation could be, okay, well, what I want and what I don't want. So that's 2 tips I'm going to leave you with today for some of the conversations that you're having about executing your plans and executing your goals, is have that 3-second pause, hippopotamus. So what you're saying is blah, 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 blah. Give the chance a person to confirm or deny what you're saying, what you're repeating what they've said. And then the next step is to move to resolution, which is to say what I want is X, Y, and Z. What I don't want is X, Y, and Z. Excuse me. Let me check my notes, write them down. Yes, I think that that's the gist of the P for planet. We did a big review and a big deep dive on our first few days of Parent Power Hour here. And now you have some tips to help you wake it through. The weekend, it's actually here, you guys. It's a thing. I know this Saturday and Sunday is going to feel a lot like Monday through Friday right now. But I wanted to finish up with one last thing, a little bit similar to the way that we started. And that is that, of course, at all times, if you're in knockdown, drag out, ground zero in a conversation, things are not going well in the house, things are not going well in this conversation, I'd love to hear if you try it out, how it goes for you. And if it doesn't work for you, I would love to hear that too, because that would give us the feedback that we need for, excuse me, I'm going to unplug for a second. Give us the feedback that I need from you to know how I can help you better. Because guys, I just want to help. No, because guys, I am here to help you. I'm here to give you some tips and tools and strategies for yourself so you can take better care of yourself, so that you may better take care of the children or the people in your home with you. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, which is another reason why I'm dressed this way, move your body, change your mind. It's another tip from my girl Rachel H. And so since it's Friday, I don't have like throwback skills or anything like that, but I can play 30 seconds of a song without doing any sort of copyright. So move our bodies, change our minds. You can stand up where you are if you need to stand up. I'm not going to stand up because I'll give you an awkward view of what's happening here, but today you have a different one. I'd love to hear what your jams are. I gotta pause before I get in trouble. So have a great Friday, have a great weekend. We will see you here on Monday. Stay tuned at 11. Dorian's coming in right now, coming in hot. Bye guys. Let me figure out how to end. Here it is. Okay.